And although I've referred to this building by its proper name, Lake Point Tower, for 18 years, I think I'm going to take the advice of the 9 and 10-year-olds who have been on the boat all summer long and simply call it the fidget spinner building instead. To give you the fidget spinner. Now, when kids came up to me and said, that looks like a fidget spinner, I was really excited. Because what had happened, one of the buildings on my tour had moved a youth. You had had an emotional experience because you made a connection with the building. Whenever we look at art or architecture, I do not see a difference. The experience is one of self, that is you, that is a circle, and other, that is the work of art or the building you're looking at. But the true experience, meaning evolves only when you have a common ground, when those two circles intersect, the gestalt, if you will. And when kids said, that's a fidget spinner, they got it, because what's the next question? Why does it look like a fidget spinner? And then I can tell you, because the architect wanted everyone to have really great lake views, but to have a feeling of privacy at the same time, and they used an entire building of glass. How do you retain privacy if you live in a house of glass? Well, first, of course, throw no stones, as the old adage says. But that's why it looks like a fidget spinner. 3 wings, you have that much glass, separate them as much as possible. And the real key to the privacy is the space between the wings. Look how shallow the curve is, meaning inside you're looking out, not into another part of the building. Stretching out on our left now, friends, is Navy Pier, Arcade and Freight Pier of 1916, World War II Naval Training Base. Former President George Bush Sr., one of 1,500 Navy pilots that trained here. How many planes are still at the bottom of the lake, do you think? 200. Around 200, that's a number from a training exercise. After the war, college campus, University of Illinois, Chicago, 1946 to 1965. Another 3 decades of trade shows and events. Mayor Jane Byrne in the 80s used it for Chicago Fest, wonderful musical fest. It came down here in August 1981, a personal anecdote, if you will, to Mayor Jane's Chicago Fest. And you know, they had parked barges the length of the pier, you could stroll from stage to stage. And it was a memorable evening because I saw one of the greatest jazz and spoken word poets the world has ever produced. And that would be the late, great, the revolution will not be televised, Mr. Gil Scott Heron. He performed right over there. The pier was winding down, the entropy was hitting it. And it closed down in 1990. The Metropolitan Pier Authority formed. They gutted it. They saved the ballroom and the towers at the back and front, made everything brand new. Then after that, and reopened the shops, restaurants, Skyline Stage, and Ferris wheel. So appropriate to have a Ferris wheel in Navy Pier. The inventor George Washington Gale Ferris from downstate. Did you know we put up the first Ferris wheel during our Columbian Exposition? Yeah, it was an answer to the Eiffel Tower, which he premiered at the Paris Exhibition of 1889. Well, Chicago being Chicago, we had to be as cool as Paris. We gave the world more fun. The first Ferris wheel, 264 feet high, 68 feet higher than what you're looking at there. Those gondolas, 10 people. The Ferris wheel, cars made out of tram cars, box cars, 60 people. A live brass band on the first Ferris wheel, playing music. And every car on the first Ferris wheel had its own private bar. Because nobody had ever taken a Ferris wheel, so I don't know if you were nervous. I guess you could get a shot of whiskey, or back then maybe the Green Fairy absinthe was available. They do not have that policy there. But they did. At the fair, they had a big sign and it said, purchase a ticket on the Ferris wheel, receive a free shot of whiskey. And you know, when I look at my old daguerreotypes, the old photos I have of that World's Fair and that, I imagine that everyone in Chicago, they're wearing their hats during the Sunday best. I imagine everyone at the World's Fair, everything they said had an exclamation point. Why, it's the Chicago World's Fair. Look, there's the Ferris wheel. Why, there's Louis Sullivan's transportation green. Hi, Daniel Burnham. Everyone talked with exclamation points. Sadly, you know what happened to the Ferris wheel? It made it to St. Louis for 1904 World's Fair, and then people didn't know what to do with it. They junked it. It ended up in the junk. Now we've just made our turn in the Chicago locks. As name implies, the concrete barrier behind us holds water in. They were erected in 1938 when every Great Lakes state and Canada sued Chicago for reversing this river and possibly allowing the Great Lakes, which everyone on Earth should know is 20% of the fresh water on the entire planet. Does everyone know them by heart? Here's what do they call the memory devices? Mnemonic? Mnemonic? Is that the word I'm looking for? At any rate, homes. Use the word homes. If you're from the Midwest, you learn it when you're 3, you never forget. Homes stands for Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. So when we had reversed the current of the river, creating an unfettered outlet of the Gulf, every Great Lakes state and Canada, oh Canada, got together and sued us. So the court gave us a number. They measure it in barrels per day. We have to monitor what can escape. So unless boats are passing to and fro, it's always locked up. You know what? It was a problem. But we fixed it because we're Chicagoans, and that's just what we do. And that's what I mean by Chicago having an I will spirit. The author Tom Robbins once wrote an entire book which was based on taking a debit and turning it into an asset. And I think of Chicago as that way. The debit, of course, was the Great Chicago Fire, which was a tragedy indeed. But it was turned into an asset by the lab of building that the architects did. The Great Chicago Fire, we willed it into the Chicago School of Architecture, the birthplace of the skyscraper. We willed ourselves to have the World's Fair to show off the city, and we will ourselves with the new and innovative architecture today. I don't know what the future of Chicago's architecture will be, but I am convinced it will be great. Okay, folks, we're beginning our docking procedures. Please, everyone needs to take a seat immediately. You need to take a seat for docking. Come up from the back deck. That's captain's orders for safety. My name is Kevin. I'll be at the top of the deck as you disembark to take your questions and say goodbye. Walk left behind me. Check out your boarding photos. They are high-quality Chicago memories. And if you get your boarding photo and you put it in a frame and take it home and put it on the kitchen sideboard, you remember this sunny day in Chicago all year long. Okay, folks, once again, everyone needs to take a seat, and we'll end the tour with one final note. For Chicago and Architectural Gym, you might be aware it's home to its own musical style, the Chicago Blues. So I would like to end the tour with a little bit of the Chicago Blues. Lately, I've been taking the country blues Rubens train, riding it up to Chicago. All aboard, Chicago!
We got the horn.
Train. I'm going to that old Chicago town where the river runs uphill, but the people say I will, and they wouldn't let that fire knock them down. No, they wouldn't let that fire bring them down. City by a third, I watch the flames leaping in the air. But that windy city crowd, they are tough and they are proud. They built those skyscrapers in the air. I said they built those skyscrapers in the air. I said they built those skyscrapers in the air. Thank you all for choosing Starlight. Hey, did you have a great time on the tour today? If so, would you give us a shout out to TripAdvisor, Yelp, Instagram, or Google, Facebook, any of those favorites? Use my name, Kevin, K-E-V-I-N. Please remain seated. We're not quite at the dock yet. Folks, it's been an honor and privilege to be your tour guide. I'll be there. Your photos will be there. Everyone have a great time in Chicago.
Bella Saulina, the net la Shalina Sida, better lots of Canada. Better lots of better cock now. On the Shinjidua, Donna.
Sir, we are still logging. If you could please keep your
Okay. Malaysian Jidwa, Ipia.